Hi, everybody.
Hello, people. All these millions of 150 people.
Welcome, welcome.
Let's see some life in the chat. I want to see some people saying hello. Come on now.
Where are you from? Who are ya?
I recognize some names. Hi to everybody here. Thank you for joining us. Hi, Charlotte. Hi, Abby. Oh my God, where is everyone from? I think Abby said she's from Pennsylvania. Did I get that right? Hi, Naomi.
San
We got Jenna from
Diego,
Oregon,
Maine.
Period. Someone's name was
Anna,
Disability,
Georgia,
Equality, and Education. Love that. So agree.
Brazil.
Denmark. I'm
Look at
screaming
this
already.
list, guys.
Oh,
Ireland.
Ireland.
Woo!
Somebody from Manitoba's here.
I see Ryan.
Burlington.
Oh, Levi. I know Levi from Atlanta, Georgia.
I really need to visit Atlanta.
Let's see. We're looking for names we know. Who showed up?
Hotlanta.
Atlanta.
I wonder, my friends call it Hotlanta. I don't know if that's really a thing or they're just teasing.
Hotlanta. I mean, there are some very beautiful
Cool.
and very messy people that have come out of Atlanta. I will give you that.
In the 70s. Oh my gosh.
Hi, Angie.
Angie, hey girl. How you doing?
Trying to bring it back from the 70s.
I love that there's people from so many parts of the world. That's crazy. What time is it in Ireland for you to be watching this?
That's my sister.
The sacrifices one must make.
I was about to say go to bed, but you know what? You can
The
stay.
best part is I got a text last night from Symphony, my sister, and they were like, I missed it because the time zone changed. They thought it was
Aw.
yesterday. And so it was the funniest thing because they were like, I missed it. And I was like, you didn't. Don't worry. So, anyways,
Surprise.
hi,
I
Symphony.
missed it
Thanks for
Love
being
that
too.
for
here.
you then. Love that. Thank you
Let's
for
say hi,
joining
Lily
us.
sister.
We're
Hi,
so happy
Symphony.
and lucky to have your sister with us.
Yeah, it's a family affair. I think some parents are coming in too.
If it counts, my cat's here with me in the room somewhere.
Counts family, family, family. So who's a cat person? Who's a dog person? Who's both? Who's neither?
Both here.
Both? Ooh.
I mean, I don't have a cat, but I do. I used to be scared of cats. Now I like them, but I have dogs.
Ooh. We got a cat on a lap, a rat person. Legit.
I used to have a rat. Rats are actually great pets, guys. Give them a chance.
Steven just got a cat? Very cool. Hi,
Oh,
Steven.
congratulations. Did I see Debbie? So many beautiful people here. I used to have a dog, loved dogs. And then after him, I was like, maybe I don't love all dogs.
No!
But I will say, my therapist has the cutest tiny little dog named April. And I didn't even know she had a dog for like months. And then one day at the end of our session, she just leans her camera down, and there's this cutest little dog you've ever seen in your life just sitting there. So now every time I sign off, I'm like, bye to my therapist. I'm like, bye, April. And she's just been sitting there the whole time. Cutest thing ever. So I like that dog. And I like my friends' dogs. But like dogs walking down the street, I don't know. What's their prerogative?
I don't think you'd go wrong with another dog since it sounds like you had a pretty wild experience with your first one. It can only get better. Hello from the UK. A few more moments, and then we shall begin. Who's ready to begin? Hello from Milton. The There's a great pie place in Milton, isn't there? Chudley's, I think. Okay, I think we are ready to begin. What shall you say, team? We get nods of yeses. Okay, well, welcome. Hi, everyone. Who am I? I shall introduce myself. My name is Grishma. I am the lucky moderator for today's panel. I'm a brown-skinned woman with brown hair. I'm wearing a ruffly shirt, as I like to call it, in my favorite hairband. 99% of the time, I am wearing a red lip. Today is one of those days. I'm an amputee, I'm a psychologist, and I'm an artist located in Chicago. So right behind me is a gallery of artwork, and yep, that's mine. And that's more than enough about me. We're here to talk about this panel and talk with our panelists. So what is this panel about? As you know, it's about folks from the fashion industry and the film industry. We've got content creators, those change makers, but these change makers leading the way, they may not have had that chance to share their experiences like the celebrities always do. So that's why we've got this panel today. And this is how the structure of the event's going to go. I'm going to briefly, very briefly, introduce our guests. Then they're going to do their own intros. And then we're going to move into the question and answer round. Believe you me, I got questions. And then the panelists are going to get 2 to 3 minutes to answer each question because we want everybody to get time to chat. Now, if a panelist goes over, I got a bell here. Ooh. So this bell is going to ring from the heavens, and words like shame will follow. Only if you go over. Am I kidding? Yes, absolutely. I am kidding. So after the Q&A round, then we're going to go on over to get some questions from our audiences. So if you've got some questions, there is a Q&A box that is located at the bottom of the Zoom. And our IT guru, Graham Kent, will share them with me in his godly IT ways. Okay? All right. So now it's time to focus on who we have on our Zoom hot seat. We have fashion designer Katie. Katie, hi. Ooh la la. Yes.
Hello.
We've got a historian, Aubrey, keeping it 100, telling about history. Aubrey, hi.
Hi.
We've got a producer in the house. It's Violet. Hi, Violet.
Hello.
We've got a filmmaker too, Lindsay. And we've got the wonderful Lylli, lifestyle content creator.
Hello.
Okay, Lylli, I would like to ask you to please introduce yourself and tell us more about you, and then pass that baton.
Hello, I'm Lylli Stapper. I am an influencer originally from Texas, but I've moved around a lot, including right now. Don't really have a home base. Currently, I'm in Oregon, Corvallis to be exact, if you must know that information. I have a short brown bob that is giving Anna Wintour, as I talked to our other panelists about this morning. I'm wearing, I don't know what kind of shade this is. I would say like a brownish, mousy gray. I'm giving mouse today. And I am yes, brown bob with bangs, good smile. I'm passing my baton. That's that.
All right, pass it. Violet, it's passed to you.
Hello. I am Violet Ferguson, also known as Hi, It's Vi. I'm going to do a quick visual description of myself. I have long brown hair, bangs. I'm wearing my signature black turtleneck along with a black leather jacket and nice little purple crystal necklace. I am an emerging producer. I'm a content creator and a disability advocate, and my work focuses on uplifting disabled-led stories and also sharing information and issues that are at the forefront of the dwarfism and disability community through a pop culture lens. And I'm going to pass the baton to Katie.
Thank you.
I have brown hair. I'm a white woman. I have bangs and sort of like a fringe. I'm wearing a gray shirt, and there is like a abstract drippy painting behind me. I'm an artist, and I mostly focus on fashion design.
Thank you, fellow artist. Pass it.
Oh, I'll popcorn Aubrey.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Aubrey Smalls, a brief visual descriptor. I have brown skin. I have black framed glasses and a short black afro, and I'm wearing a white little knit shirt. And I'm a filmmaker, historian, and let's see. I'm just really excited about celebrating us today. I think the Dwarfism community is incredibly talented, as you clearly can see. And I think this is just a fun way for us all to inspire each other, inspire you, hopefully, in an authentic, genuine way. So I'm just really excited for tonight. And thank you again for joining us. I'm going to pass it to Lindsay.
Hi everyone, I'm Lindsay. I kind of do content creation, but I visual description. Got red hair. It's kind of faded because I dye it. I'm in my room. I'm white. I have full base of makeup on, and I have a red top on. It's like asymmetric. And yeah, as a filmmaker, I'm still in film school, but I'm very passionate about getting into the business of filmmaking. And I feel like I'm really excited about this panel because we all have such different things to bring for the same goals. And I feel like we're a great team. We all have a direction we want to go. And I think we can work together to bring that vision to life.
Thank you. So many multi-hyphenates. Oh my God. All right, so we're going to start with our panel questions. The first one that I have is, each of you brings something different to the Zoom table. We've got art, we've got music, we've got storytelling, we've got activism. So can each of you share how your creative journey began and what inspired you to use this platform that you have to express your identity as a little person?
Sorry.
Lindsay, the gods have chosen you.
I didn't mean to start, but yeah. I forgot to mute myself. But I actually got into it because I knew from a very young age I had a lot of opinions and I liked getting dressed up and I liked singing in the shower. So I ended up in musical theater and I think it ignited my passion for the arts, but it also kind of kickstarted my journey in a disappointing way because I'm sure this resonates with a lot of people. Went into the arts, very passionate about it. I feel as though I, improved very much, but you see very quickly about typecasting. And I'll never forget being the only person who was 15 in the children's ensemble when the rest of my friends, 13 to 18, were in the teens ensemble. And they told me it's because I didn't fit the vision of their show, but I was still in the ensemble either way. And so going through that, I could have been beat down by it, but I just love entertaining. I love the art so much. And also, I keep seeing studios and all these, they're making some really bad calls, and I feel like I could do better. So I want to get into the room and be able to make the choices to give everybody who I know, these amazing creators and artists, an opportunity to make those things. And I think somebody needs to get in there and play ball to open that door. And I want to do it.
And we want you to do it. Ooh, thank you. Lily, what are your thoughts here?
Hi. I'm Lily. We've already covered that fact, but I originally, I mean, growing up, like I've always been obsessed with film and photography, and just anything visual has always just been like a fascinating thing to me. My first camera, well, digital camera, my parents got me for my birthday when I was 10, and it kind of all went from there. The only reason, of course, they got it for me was that they got really sick of me coming up to them every week with a camera full of film, like just of photos of the cat, being like, "Can we develop these?" And they were like, this costs money, right? So they finally got me a digital camera, and that really allowed me to kind of branch into just like making silly home movies. I always wanted to be a director when I grew up. But I felt that in a lot of ways I was never going to be able to achieve directing because of how I appear visually and just because of being a little person. I never felt that I would be able to thrive in that realm. So I changed my major to graphic design, and then after I went to college, and then COVID happened, as I'm sure we all remember. And I was kind of forced to go home, and my mom was like, "You don't seem very happy right now. I think you could use a creative outlet." And so I started just randomly posting videos that had nothing to do with being a little person online. It was anything just from comedy to cooking content to mainly me having a mental breakdown alone in my bathroom at 2 a.m. and I was bleaching my hair incessantly. And those videos, I guess, resonated with a lot of people and became a great way for me to just be myself and not really have to explicitly talk about being a little person. But I think obviously, if you are watching my content, it is very apparent visually that I am a little person. And so I think it gave kind of a learning experience to people without having to explicitly tell them, hey, I'm a little person, but I'm just like you. And so
Mm.
it was a great way for me to have that creative outlet, but then also for other people to escape and watch something entertaining that also was probably simultaneously educational to a certain degree. And here we are 5 years later, and it kind of stuck around. So that's me.
That's amazing. And who hasn't tried to color their hair bleach in it? I know I have. Okay, Aubrey.
I was gonna say I'm like on a strict ban with myself. Like I've self-inflicted the ban of not bleaching my hair because I went through like a 4 year span of doing reckless things to my hair. I didn't even ultimately care how it looked. I was just more like, this is fun and I'm bored. So I'm on a strict ban to let my hair grow out. It's dying. So I understand that. I understand that. But my path was so different because I grew up and I we're all around the same age, so I feel like we all can relate maybe to like the internet was not always a safe place for little people. Like that was not like for most of my growing up on the internet through every iteration of every app that there's been. Um, I never would have ever imagined that people with dwarfism could have a presence and have like, especially people who like we're not all in the educational activist space necessarily, and I love that. I love that we don't have to just be in one box. But for me, I started off. My family owned a circus growing up, so I started off at a very young age performing and being in the entertainment world. And I just always loved movies. I was like, that's the end goal. Like this circus stuff's fine. And I very much so enjoyed performing because I think it was very integral to like my why I think it's so important to connect with people and like content, quote unquote. Um, Even though that might be how we're classified, I think we all do put a lot of genuine like heart and love into the stuff that we put out. And we do love to connect with people through our forms of art. But I think for me, when I got to an age where I was auditioning for stuff, I was realizing that like the talent pool for little people versus the opportunities was like there was a disparity there. And I was like, wait. So, because I was like 18 and like, if we're talented enough, they're gonna like duh, like they're gonna cast us. And that's just not how the industry really works, you know? And I just remember looking around the room when I was probably like 20 and I was at like some big studio and there was a ton of like actors and they were also all disabled and we were all like vying for the same like role and everyone was so nervous and I was just like, I don't want to do this for the next few years of my life. Like this doesn't actually like this kind of feels like it'd be a waste of my 20s low key. And I'm a firm believer in the pivot because that taught me that like pivoted me more towards like who's gonna create the opportunities if we don't do it ourselves. And that led me to creating my own documentary, which I started talking about on TikTok because we were fundraising for it. And that's how we ended up being able to fundraise the documentary because people on TikTok were like, you're right, I haven't seen anything really with little people who aren't subjected to like short people jokes. And it's not really like it's really disappointing that it's taken so long for something for us created about dwarfism actually have people with dwarfism involved and it's not all about like the trivial drama or the stuff that doesn't really even apply to our lives but instead hopefully showcases us as people and that we're just artists as well, and that our dwarfism isn't the focal point, and that shouldn't be what people necessarily see when they look at us. So that led me to TikTok. I really came here dragging my feet, but I loved Katie, I loved Lylli, and I was like, you know what? It's might as well get on this app. Might as well. That's how I met Violet. That's how I met Lindsay. So it all worked out in the end.
Aw. And I mean, what are 20s for? They're for parties and regrets, right? And tattoos, right? And to explore and to be our authentic selves. So Katie,
Yes.
tell us.
So yeah, I've like loved creating art my whole life. So like in 2020, that's kind of when I started like drawing on clothes, I would say. And then I also like didn't really like, we were all at home like during the beginning of COVID. So then I took up sewing, and it really like because before like my aunt would help me like alter my clothes. So with this time, I kind of learned how to start altering my own. And then I kind of learned like embroidery through using the sewing machine as well. And then also in 2020, I just decided to like share more of my art on TikTok. And then I kind of like got recognized from there. And it's been really cool, like connect. I come from a really creative family, so it's been like really cool, like meeting other artists and also like other creative little people as well. And yeah, that's been the most like cool thing.
Man, I'm thinking, what did I do during COVID? I washed my hand a lot, and that's all I remember about COVID. But all y'all are doing amazing things in COVID. Okay, I believe Violet, you were next.
Oh, great. So about 10 years ago, I can't believe it was 10 years ago. Oh my gosh. I wanted, I guess, to be a journalist. I wanted to be in front of the camera. And my school kind of would do this internship program where they would connect students with businesses and organizations in the community so they could have real world job experience. And there were no places that could take on like students who wanted to explore journalism. So instead, they put me at a TV studio so I could at least like observe news anchors. But it was more behind the camera role. And I never really wanted to be like behind the camera, but I knew that I wanted to do like ever since I was young, wanted to do something that had to do with media. I just didn't know what I wanted to do. And they actually let me create my own news stories. And because I was in like my school's music program, I was like, okay, they're the best subject. And I created all my news stories on my school's music program. And I absolutely fell in love with kind of like this director, producer role. And from there, I went to film school. And while I was in college, I think that's when I really began my disability journey in the dwarfism community. And I don't know if anyone else has this experience. Um, we're not really taught that we're part of the disability community. We're always taught that we're just short. And so I never knew that I was part of the disability community. And I started meeting more disabled people online. And that's when I became more aware of my surroundings. I was in a program of 100 people, and there were 1 out of 2 visibly disabled people in the program. And I was like, okay, this needs to change. This isn't right. And so COVID hit, and I've always known that I wanted to be a disability advocate. I just didn't know how to get started. When COVID hit, I started exploring more on TikTok. And I remember there was this woman that created a really ableist kind of reel talking about how her children, or how she was afraid of people with dwarfism. And I was like, I'm just going to make a video response to this just for fun. And that's how I kind of started my journey on TikTok, was because that video took off. And I was like, okay, this is something that I can do. I can combine my disability advocacy with my storytelling skills. And I put the two of them together, and it's only gone from there.
The rest is history.
Exactly.
Thank you. All right, let's get to our second question. It is about representation. So representations often focused on visibility rather than that authenticity that we all love. So what does authentic representation look like to each of you? Um, Aubrey, let's start with you first, and then popcorn it, please, please, please.
Gladly. I think it's very interesting because I think representation sometimes is such a loaded word. And for some, I think it's always been difficult for me because I am also like Black. I'm also a part of the queer community. So representation has always looked very different and it feels different to me when talking about my different identities. But I think with dwarfism, in my experience, when it comes to a lot of the dwarfism representation we get, it just doesn't feel, it feels like it's from the lens of an average type person because it is, who doesn't spend any time around little people at all. So the focus point of the character is always some way about having dwarfism. And when I think of like all of these panelists, or I think of all of my friends who have dwarfism is not the first thing I think of. I really only remember if I'm like, oh, my hip was hurting today because of the weather. And they're like, girl, yes, me too. And then I'm like, oh, right. So I think like we haven't gotten to a point where I feel, especially in the film industry, where I've seen stories that if they do have to do with some of the struggles or our dwarfism or how our disability plays a part into our lives, it's always from kind of like a pity party perspective, or the character dies, or it's like the disability savior trope. So I feel like there's nothing wrong with sharing our struggles, because I know so many of my scripts, like one will be like very like disability history and the other one will be like silly goofy girly. Like it just doesn't matter that they all have dwarfism, they just all do have dwarfism. So I think it's like I just really wanted to see a future where we can have a various amount of different stories where they're not all traumatic and dark or sad. I want to see dwarfism take the back burner, because for me, at least, that would be where I'd be like, oh, this is authentic representation, because no little person that I know is like, short this, I feel inadequate about this, I'm insecure, I'm this about, we all have our issues, but like they don't all stem from some lack of like self-acceptance. I mean, some people it does, but for the most part, I think that assumption is put on us that all of our stories have to do with our disability. And I think that can change. And I think that would make it feel more authentic to me. But I will pass it to Lindsay.
So I have a cough drop in my mouth. Sorry about that. I resonate a lot with actually something you said, Violet, is I also didn't really feel like I was disabled for a long time because there's the we're just small, that's all thing. And I feel like the number one thing I want to see in representation is normalcy,
Mm.
complex normalcy. I want to see healthy parents. I want to see people going through divorce. I want to see a shark lawyer. I want to see, they're the little couple, they're amazing business owner and a doctor. I want to
Mm.
see that. I want to see our range being normal people. Like you said, Aubrey, like most of the little people I know, I don't think of them as, just little people, but I also know them for so many different things and reasons, being part of the Little People of America. I've met a lot of people, and, you know, a lot of little people I've met are actually out there working very physical jobs. Like it's just frustrating to see representation that feels so much like what you said, Aubrey, like from the lens of an average height person. I want to see some complex. I want to see someone be kind of a toxic girlfriend. Like I want to see some
Yeah.
really interesting, complex, average characters that you would see at your own high school. Because that's where we are. That's where we live. Is just like everybody else. It's just a state of being and it's a perspective we see the world from. It informs our view, but it doesn't dictate everything. So that should be kind of the direction we go. And I think I'll popcorn to Lily.
Hello, hello. I'm going to kind of snowball or kind of feed off of both Aubrey and Lindsay there for a second because I think that both of you, like, I've always said that I want to be Like I was like, if I ever play a movie character, if I ever get cast in a movie, I want to be a villain, but not in like a freak show villain way. I want to be a villain in the way of like, I can kick your butt and kind of like a Winter Soldier kind of way. And yeah, maybe I got hit with superhero serum and then you're like the most like, and it could be an unexpected twist. But I think that oftentimes we don't see like, I feel that for me, representation in today's day and age is very forced. I feel that it feels like, oh, we're just hitting a diversity quota if we include a little person, or if we even include like a woman or a person of color. I feel like, you know, you see this all the time now where brands one day get rid of their DEI initiatives, but the next day include an ad with people of color or women or just like a little person. Well, not a little person because we hardly ever get that, but that's to change. And so I feel like these brands are not authentic. They don't want to actually have adequate representation. They just know that, oh, from the consumer lens, if we have a company that seems more for the people, then we'll generate more sales. And I think that I want to have representation be authentic to a version of like, we want you because you've accomplished this, not because you look short. It's because you're both short and you've also accomplished A, B, or C, or you're inspirational for A, B, and C reasons. And I think that that is what authenticity just like kind of means. It sounds so basic, but here we are and it's still having to kind of be spelled out. I think that I have a lot of thoughts on this matter, mainly because like growing up, you know, you get told, oh, you're not normal, you're not normal. And my mom always did a very good job to emphasize you are normal, you're just not average. And I think having that mindset made me really shoot for the stars. It made me not ask for help. It made me just view myself as a person going through it every day. Like, and I don't think people, I know average tall people really, I think it surprises me how much of a bubble they think that I live in or that we live in. I don't want to put words in other people's mouths here, but I think it is fair to assume that a lot of people just think that the only people I interact with are other little people. And I'm like, no, I'm the only one in my family that's a little person. I have no direct contact with friends that are other little people. The people that I date are all of average height. And so I think that that surprises a lot of people, but I'm like, that to me is just representation of my day-to-day life. And I would love to see that translated into the entertainment industry and to print and to whatever it may be. I I can't wait to be a Winter Soldier one day. Just I'm putting that out there, okay? This is my casting call. Marvel, I'm up. I'm just kidding.
I got you, girl.
But
Write some.
I'm watching it. I'm
yeah,
watching
yeah,
it.
yeah,
I'm going
yeah.
to the
So
theaters to watch it.
just you wait, Chris Evans. I'm coming for your job, okay? Please don't quote me on that. I don't want to get fired. Oh my gosh. Fired from what? My own life, I guess. But yeah, that's just kind of what representation would look like to me. It's just kind of like you said, literally taking somebody of average height and change the narrative and put me there in that place. And that might seem weird to you, but if it does, that's your problem, not mine. So that's what I would say.
That's a you
Oh, and
problem.
I will popcorn to, oh my gosh, who's left? Is it Violet and Katie? Eeny, meeny, miny, mo. I'll do Violet. How about that?
That sounds good. Oh my gosh, everyone's answers have been so good. Exactly what I want to say. I'm going to approach this from a different angle and not so much focus on like representation in kind of like the arts, but just like representation in general. To me, I want to see authentic representation. To me, looks like little people being uplifted and listened to and supported. And I put a big emphasis on listen to, because the amount of people who, and I think we've all experienced this, who come into like my TikTok comments and I guess try to like dictate my experience is very interesting. So, you know, like I'll have a video and I'll say, these are the proper terms you use to describe someone with dwarfism. Someone's like, well, I'm not using little person because that sounds like I'm calling you a child. Okay, well, this is my experience. But I think like going back to the beginning of the question, I'm trying to remember it, but it had something to do with visibility. I think a lot of us kind of grew up in an era where reality TV shows were really taking off, and TLC, the Learning Channel, which a lot of us call the Little People Channel, showed a lot of shows with little people, and for a lot of average height people, this was their first time seeing a little person on screen and hearing about kind of the dwarfism experience. And for a while, I think those shows were really, it was really great representation. Um, I thought it was great representation. It was great seeing myself on TV, but that was really the only time I was seeing myself. Then when social media um, grew, I would have family members, friends sending me videos from little people that were kind of taking off, comedians, other reality stars, other entertainers. And there was just something that never like felt right to me. Like it's great to see this representation, but why is it only here? Why am I not seeing myself in an everyday role on television? Why am I not seeing myself in a magazine? Why am I not seeing myself in an ad? And not to get like too controversial, but you know, as I got older and I started on social media and really learning more about these figures, I realized that a lot of us, my experience didn't necessarily align with some of these bigger no pun intended, kind of figures with dwarfism. And I think that really frustrated me, and it frustrates a lot of people. That's the whole reason why we're having this panel, is because there's more to the dwarfism community than some of these people who are in proximity to power, have large platforms, have celebrity status. I'm sorry, I don't know if that answered the question, but
It does. It's authentic to you, right?
yeah, I'm gonna throw it to Katie.
Katie, you're up.
All right. Yeah, so I think definitely like when I started on TikTok, I was like nervous to post because yeah, just from like growing up and just from like being in public, we can get like rude comments sometimes, and the internet can be a scary place. So I was hesitant of what to post and wasn't sure if I was gonna be like even taken seriously. Like a lot of the time little people are seen as like the butt of a joke, or yeah, like you're saying as well, like it's focused on the height. So I wasn't sure like I was even like allowed to make, not like allowed, but like would be able to make this content and be supported. And honestly, TikTok, there are some moments, but the most of it has been really supportive, and it's great. Been like making a community, meeting like all of you, and also just like fashion creators and artists in general. It is like still, I get it's upsetting. So I know some like there's other little people content creators who, yeah, just sometimes they feel like they're making content to cater to like the average height people. And sometimes like it like when families like the average height like family member will use their little person like family member to like make content, and they're always like the butt of the joke. Like I would never want my family to do that to me. So I think it's important that authentic content is just being yourself and being true to you. Like no one has to create content to get validation from that like out like average height people. You just need to find it within you. And I think my authentic self is just showing my art because that brings me the most joy.
I love that. Thank you so much. You know, I have an artwork that I created, and it popped up when you said that. And I think the line of the artwork or the description was something like, no matter your size, no matter your growth, what will never change is your worth. And I don't know why people don't get that, right? Um, Makes me sad. I don't know if any of you are familiar with Bollywood, but the jokes about people with disabilities, all types of disabilities, if it's not even visible, then it's erased, and if it is visible, it's usually the tropes that we've been talking about. So I hope that changes in Hollywood and in Bollywood as well. So we already talked about this a little bit, but I'd love to ask you a question about it. So, you know, we've highlighted some of like the same few narratives about dwarfism, right? And then you've shared how you feel about um, how this has shaped public perception. So my question is, how do you push back against it through your work? Lily, you want to take it?
Yeah, I got this. Don't worry, guys. I'll shoulder the burden. I'll carry the team. I'm kidding. I think like mine is very simple. I wish I had a grandiose answer for you, but I think mainstream media people oftentimes have the same assumption. And so I actually, a couple months ago, it was about 6 months ago, I was just like, I was tired of getting the same like six things of like, oh, you're so lucky you can wear kids' shoes. Oh, you're so lucky you can wear kids' clothes. And I'm like, okay, guys, I don't know if you guys know what a body looks like after puberty. Unfortunately, I didn't just stay 8 years old, okay? I did become a woman, and I don't want to
Mm-mm.
have to emphasize that in all the shapes and forms, but I am still a like I'm a 25-year-old lady, like, hey, guess what? And so I think people just had these crazy assumptions to me that like seemed so basic and they seemed so like common sense, but I don't think that because of our not to not to take over Aubrey's job as historian here, but in history, I think that media has written us to be just like in this little box, and we don't stray from that box, and we just stay here, and then we're taken out of the box to play with when necessary for a specific role, and then we're put back on into the box and shoved aside. And I was kind of sick of that. I was sick of like 5 years of making content, and I was like, you guys still assume this about me? Like, do you know me at all? Do you care? And oftentimes it was people that weren't my true supporters. It was people that just like would come across me for a split second on the For You page, comment one thing, and then disappear forever. So I made a video series called like Things People Assume About Me That Are Incorrect. And it did phenomenally well. And it seems, again, very basic, but I think just like starting from the ground and moving up, like I can't become the Winter Soldier in a day. Okay. I got to put some bricks down and I got to be like, hey, this is an assumption you've made about me. This is incorrect. And many people were like, oh, I've never even stopped to consider that. And I think that it has really helped me kind of mold the public, I guess, the public eye. It's helped me mold people that view me and just kind of let them know right out the gate who I am and who I am not. And so that's kind of like, I guess, from a work perspective, how I've pushed back a little bit and been like, no, I'm going to set some boundaries here and I'm going to correct you in a gentle manner, in a broad spectrum. That way, I'm not just like pointing out specific individuals that are saying this, but just like an overall take for everyone. Come one, come all. And I am going to popcorn to Katie. Sorry, not to just like you.
Wait, so the question is
Push
more
back, Katie, push back.
um wait, what was the question?
Yeah, how are you
Sorry.
pushing back against, like the same few narratives about dwarfism?
Oh, yeah, I feel like it kind of goes back to what I said before, just like being my authentic self and like keep sharing my art. And also like uplifting the voices of like other peers in my community. I think the work that Aubrey does is super important, and it's really cool even just like learning from the content that he shares as well.
Aw, Aubrey, do you have something to say about that?
That is so kind. The way I push back is by creating opportunities, which is a big issue that I've had. That it's usually just one or two roles or one or two jobs for little people or apprenticeship. And I was like, how many little people can I fit into one? It's like a fun challenge because I know that there's people out there, and it's been a process because the industry is not as kind. But to be honest, what I've learned throughout this process of the documentary, even from when we started just even thinking of the possibility, and I was so pessimistic. I was like, you know what? I'm not even like, no, forget about streamers and studios. They're not going to want to like have any interest in anything about little people. Like, forget them. This is for the people. This is for. And then I actually started posting content, and people started reaching out who did work at these studios, and I would go hang out with them, and they're like super cool people who genuinely were like at the top of their game at these big studios, who were like, so where are the give us the scripts, like we realized that yeah, we did kind of like, they genuinely want to know. Like, I feel like we're at a point now where there's a lot of people who might not be the final decision maker, but who might work in these different industries, who are like normal people who also scroll on Instagram and TikTok and might have been like, oh yeah, I don't know that much about dwarfism specifically. Like, and I had some of them, even after I would hang out with them, call me and be like, we have a disability like cohort that we advise for our films. And I went to go check to see if we've ever had someone with dwarfism. And they were like, I was shocked that we don't even have someone in like the system. Like there's not even someone that they could call. And then you have people in my comment section saying Peter Dinklage is the one that took away all of these jobs for Snow White and the Seven. And I'm like, baby, you don't understand the system. Like they didn't even have people to call. Like they wouldn't have even known where to start. So I think my way of pushing back is just to really focus on speaking up for um our community. Like in every meeting that I have been in, I ramble about literally every single person in this call. I'm like, this person's doing this, and people's mouths are like, oh my god, I had no idea. And I'm like, well, pull up your phone right now and let's put in the work. Let's get into business. No more theoreticals, no more hypotheticals. But come on. Mm-hmm. So I think just trying to be, again, as I think Katie was saying, just being authentic and like, I am more than having dwarfism. That's just like my extra little superpower that I think adds value to the art that I make. And as a historian, I used to hate history, but starting the deep dive into one little person and being like, why didn't I hear about them? Or what happened to little people during, like, I don't know, the civil rights movement? I didn't know any Black little people growing up. And one of my top comments is always, I didn't know there was Black little people. And I'm like, to a certain point, I didn't either. Look at the history books. Like, where are they? Where did they go? So I think pushing back by just sharing those stories, because it's not like they've been forgotten. They've been purposely hidden from us. So I just try to push back by sharing those stories, educating myself. Everyone always just assumes it's always up here, but I'm like, no, every day I literally am like, what rabbit hole do I want to go down? Like, I'll just think of something like, why don't we ever talk about this, or who's this? Or it's a learning experience for me as well. And I think just like knowledge is so powerful. So I think that is just one way I push back. I'll pass it to Violet.
Thank you. Violet, share, please.
I'm going to go off of Lilly's point a bit, or her thoughts, just with the boundary setting is I push back by protecting my peace. I know that when my videos kind of go out of my normal audience, or sorry, when they go viral, they're going to go out of my normal audience. And I need to prepare myself for a lot of comments that are just very aggressive when they don't need to be. And I think when I first started TikTok, I would respond to a lot of those comments. And I was like, no, I'm not. Now I'm at the point where I'm not going to give people the satisfaction of like they don't get to control my emotions. They don't get to control like how I'm going to go about my day. And I just block people. I think also I push back just by existing online, just taking up space. I think that's it. And I think I'm also very loud and proud about it as well. I know that everyone here in the room is going to change whatever industry they're a part of. And I think stating that out loud, saying we're going to make change, you're not going to make us disappear, you're not going to push our boundaries, you're not going to silence us, is the best way of pushing back. And I think
I love it.
Now it's Lindsay's turn. Yes, Lindsay hasn't gone yet.
So a lot of what you guys are saying, I feel like I'm hearing a common theme too of like, we have been treated and told consistently that we're to be consumed in a way of like, we are, the two words that come up to me constantly are like comedic, you know, and that we fall into some kind of comedic box, like you said, Lily. And oh, it just drives me nuts. Because, like, girl, I have a sense of humor. I'm here to make some jokes. But what you're not going to do is come onto my page and just keep commenting Gimli over and over and over and over again. It's no longer funny. Like, even I love Ireland and I want to go to Ireland and I have red hair and I am a little person. So, yeah, sometimes I crack a little leprechaun joke now and again for me and my friends, not for you guys, because you guys have not shown that you have that respect. So when I made content and I feel like I stopped for a while, it was largely because I felt like I was providing something to people who weren't necessarily, I don't know, like I wanted my space to be mine for a little
Mm.
bit. And I love entertaining, but I liked having my own space there too. And I like having that separation. And I think definitely like my parents really raised me to be um, very empathetic and understanding. And in my experience, a lot of people who say like the M word, a lot of them genuinely don't know. And so I'll educate them right then and there and say, hey, just so you know, that's not a word that we use. And I do it in the moment. And I try not to jump down their throats too quickly unless I feel like I can tell that there's some level of aggression there already. But at the same time, like I don't owe everybody an immediate explanation about my entire medical history. And I feel like maybe Lily, you might understand. I don't know if you guys are also the only little person in your family, but like growing up, I think my parents did an amazing job of learning about dwarfism as much as they could. But there's only things that they can prepare you so much for when they don't actually have a disability, and you do. So I think I learned to share maybe too much of myself too early and to feel obligated to because of education. And I feel like for me, I'll educate when I feel like it, but sometimes I just want to put on my little outfit and have a giggle, and sometimes I just want to like talk about a movie. And I briefly worked with Dewey Clothing, and they are doing amazing work, just getting to know different brands and things that really care about highlighting what we bring to the table, and not in a way that's consumption, but giving us an opportunity to meet our own needs. And we deserve to be able to meet our own needs and not have to think about everybody else all the time and what they're thinking about us. I like my space, I like doing my thing, and I like not explaining myself anymore.
Mm.
I don't need to
You know,
explain myself.
I love that. As an amputee, I'm like relating in so many ways, but I'm not a panelist, but that's okay. Well, so y'all have already answered one of our questions, which is about claiming space, right? It comes up a lot, like a lot. So thank you for sharing how all of you are claiming space and what it means to you. So we're getting to that time where we're gonna pass it over to the audience for questions, but I want to ask one last question very quickly. I want to know what you think about the future, right? Like imagine the future of art and entertainment. It could be 2040 or it could be 3025. It's your choice. But what role do you want little people to play in shaping the future that you imagine? Lindsay, you want to go first?
I can do that. I want to see Lily as the Winter Soldier. I want to see one of us in Bridgerton, probably Aubrey. I would like to see Katie have a whole line on the New York Fashion Week and London Fashion Week. Let's get a whole line out there because your art is amazing. It is so cool. And obviously, people want it, people love it, and they love what you bring to the table, not because you're a little person. And Violet, I want you running your own company, girl. I want that CEO Shiv Roy, but Shiv Roy if she were not evil and toxic. I want to see all of it. And maybe for myself, I want to see us just like again, I want to see characters that I can see myself in. And I
Mm,
want because I see that confidence when I got to know other people who looked like me and had experiences like mine. I could really relate to people, and I think it helped me establish a confidence for myself to really assert myself in this world. I want to see that. And I think all of your guys' platforms, girl, I don't post anymore, so I can't say that about mine. But like all of your guys' platforms show that people are interested. And I think people are genuinely curious, but they're so worried now between the either they're like checking a box with a business of representation or they're too afraid to say something because they think that, they're overstepping. I just want people to like their minds are open, and I want us to have content that can meet those, ask those questions and answer those questions so that not every little person at the Trader Joe's has to do it themselves. And I think it'd be amazing to just see us like when Mira got to run on the Victoria's Secret, no, the Fenty fashion show. It's amazing. I want to see some fashion icons. I want to see, like, let's get us on some magazines again. What was her name? Sinead Burke, amazing. Just like Let's see
Mm.
us in
Mm.
different powerful roles and see them being celebrated. I want to see that. And I kind of like your idea, Lily, Chris Evans, Dylan O'Brien. Anyone there?
Anyone want to add? Anyone want to add very quickly? That future? I mean, I don't know how a future can get better than that.
In my future, little people are in charge. Anybody above 4'10" to the back of the room. Permanently. Just kidding. No, I just myself am focused on learning, but also just sharing more stories of people with dwarfism, primarily on screen. Because just in my own content creation journey, I've been inspired just like as a person by so many people who just happen to have dwarfism. And it's just is so fun for me to so fun for me to be able to share those stories and hopefully to provide people the opportunity in the future to go to the movies and see a role with someone with dwarfism and multiple people with dwarfism that's not going to scar them and reinforce harmful stereotypes, because there's just so many incredible little people out there with so many interesting and complex and layered stories that I think deserve to be commemorated in a medium that I personally love, which is film. But we're going to take over. We're going to take over everything. We're going to have Broadway shows. We're going to have, holographic billboards with little. I'm kidding. But the
Okay.
future
All
is
right. I gotta
definitely.
stop you, Aubrey. I gotta stop you. We gotta get to the questions from the audiences as well. Here's the question. All right, and it's about love and it's about relationship. And I'm not sure who I want to give this one to. So I think it's gonna be panelists, you tell me. So the question is, how do you navigate love and relationship seeking when our media is dominated by these images of convention and Western beauty standards?
I think I'll say something.
Yeah.
I've been yapping away at most of my friends about this lately because the roster's been dry and I've been a little bored. And the reason I'm so frustrated by it is because I feel like my experience on the apps was a little traumatizing. A lot of fetishy, gross, icky questions. And I feel like that has been such an obstacle where like I really want to reach out and connect and like shoot my shot a little bit more because I think this is a panel of beautiful people, by the way. And I'm gonna say, yeah, I'm a good looking person too. And I don't like that I can't trust that we can have an authentic connection without having to sift through whether or not you fetishize me or not. So
Mm.
it's definitely been frustrating, but at the same time, I know and I am confident that there are 8 billion people in this world. 8 billion people. And you're telling me that just because I can't find somebody in Northern California that like it's never gonna happen. Like there's enough romance and love stories that have stood the test of time. It doesn't mean that we're not gonna get to be part of that. It just means that it requires a little bit more careful looking, but somebody's not the lack of seeing you for who you are is not a reflection of you. It's a reflection of their closed mind and it just requires you to have a little bit of patience, but not to ever doubt yourself because it's not you. And you're a wonderful person. You should have confidence about what you bring to the table because you do. Like you're so worth it. And so somebody will see that. 8 billion people on this earth, statistically, somebody's gonna see it. So
I think you just saved a bunch of us a lot of therapy bills. So thank you. All right, one last question. I think you all talked about this a little bit, but maybe we can push it a little further. How do we successfully and carefully combine allyship with lived experience? It's a challenge sometimes, always being the advocate for disability. So any thoughts about that? How to be less tired?
I'm gonna just quickly say, I think if I'm misinterpreting the question, please just cut me off and don't let me ramble because that would be embarrassing. But um, kind of like, I don't think I'm ever tired of necessarily, like sometimes I just want to exist and not have to be short and play the part for the day. And I think we all feel that that's just the lived human experience. But I do want to say that I feel like there's a fine line sometimes between taking up space and being in charge and being, I don't want to say like being assertive, being authoritative, being proud to be just like loud and exist and not feel ashamed of existing itself. But I think that there's a fine line sometimes between people seeing you be very confident and thinking that you're like the leader. Like the amount of times I have been immediately I say one thing and then the movie Snow White comes out and I get flooded with my question. I'm like, I'm not planning on seeing that film. And it has nothing to do with the fact that it's just not my like particular, I'm not a big Disney princess fan, and that has nothing to do with little people whatsoever. I am not the spokesperson for all little people. There are so many voices to be heard, and if you're just getting your information from one source, you're going to miss out not only on, you know, excellent fashion sense from Katie or an amazing historical reference from Aubrey, but like you're also just going to miss, I don't know exactly how I'm trying to phrase it, but I just think that in general, if you are trying to be a proper ally for a cause, I guess, make sure that you're not keeping your circle super small and make sure that you're extending that support to as many people as you want. Because even though we all have a shared singular experience, you know, I also have a shared experience with many average people. Me and my dad have brown hair. It doesn't mean that we are the exact same person. Just because I'm short and somebody else is short doesn't mean that we like the same things. Like I'm sure a lot of people here like grape flavored candy, and I think grape flavored candy should die. And so I'm just saying that I think that you need to get your facts and your research, and just like if you want to support people, you need to support everybody. And I think that like just love for everyone needs to be spread everywhere. But that sounds weird. I don't mean a giant love fest. I'm just saying that support everyone, and that's what I'm going to end on. Okay, bye.
Even if you're grape colored candy, even then. I
Never,
actually don't like
never,
grape colored
never.
candy at all.
Ban.
But okay, so we are getting that time. We gotta say goodbye, and you don't have to go home, but you can't stay in this Zoom room. We just can't. So before we part ways, I invite each of our fabulous panelists to share one sentence, maybe one takeaway. Aubrey, you first.
I just wanted to say thank you guys so much for being here. I hope to see you all on every one of these content creator and people's pages. These are all incredible people, and I'm just happy that we got to do this. So thank you all for joining, and thank you to all the panelists, of course. And yeah, the future is dwarfism, so watch yourselves.
Violet.
Little people, disabled people, I see you, I love you, keep existing. I know sometimes it can be a challenge, but like I said, just existing is pushing back. And I would like to thank all the panelists, Grishma, our moderator, our ASL interpreters, Graham, our tech wizard, just for being here, for supporting us, and everyone who came. Thank you so much. I'm going to hand it over to Katie. Sorry.
I'm feeling very grateful. Thank you to Aubrey and Violet for organizing this, and all the hosts and tech support, and Lindsay and Lily. It's been great being with you today. Yeah, and I just want to say, like, if any little person artist is listening, I would just say don't be afraid to share your art and to keep creating. Popcorn Lily.
I am here. I just wanted to kind of say thank you to everyone who organized this. Violet, Aubrey, I can't imagine the work going on behind this. I couldn't even get my Zoom to work, so I can only imagine how hard it was for you guys. So just thank you, everyone, including as ASL interpreters, and everybody a part of this who organized this. It's been great. To everyone watching this, be loud, be proud, be authentic to who you are. Don't try and just fill a narrative to please someone else. Be who you want to be, like what you want to like, unless it's great candy. I'm kidding. But thank you guys to everyone, and I love you all.
My last little message. Thank you guys for putting
Yeah.
this on. Thank you everyone for coming. Thanks for letting us talk about the things that we want you to know, and to create this space for you. I think everyone has something uniquely valuable and critical that they bring to this world. And, you know, find what that is for you, get to know yourself, and be proud of what you offer the world, you know, and be proud of what you are capable of bringing, and never never stop asking questions and pushing back. You know, claim that space. But yeah, I can't wait to see what everyone else here does. And you guys are all such amazing artists, and I'm literally so honored to be here. I can't even begin to describe. So it's been a true, genuine pleasure.
Aw. And I mean, ditto. I'm so grateful to moderate here today with all yes superstars. I got very nervous. But you know, one of the questions was like, how can we support you all? And so here's the answer to that question. If you want to support any of our panelists for the amazing work that they're doing, you can directly donate through that Eventbrite link. And I believe an email, a follow-up email, is going to be hitting your inboxes shortly as well. So that'll give you details as well. So Graham, Kant, thank you so much for the tech support. Christy, thank you from CLR Interpreting Services. Amanda, thank you for providing ASL as well. And thank you to our panelists and, of course, our audience for their participation. This is Dr. Grishma Shah and her bell signing off. Bye.
Is it just us? Are
I
we
feel like there
alone?
should be like exit
Not yet.
music, like a closing song.
I got y'all.
Closing
I'll
time.
put on Gnarly by Cat's Eye. How about that?